Tamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutravashakratau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Guruvagneti Murti Veda Vivagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Rukarasvandakaro Mai Rukarasvannivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvad Guru Vidiyate. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. How many here have attended all the retreats? This is the third one of Upadesa Saaram. Not that many. How many have attended the last retreat and coming to this retreat? There is the two. And how many are coming for the first time? Several. So I think it will be quite alright if you review this text, Upadesa Saaram. I'm sure it will be a repetition for those who attended earlier. But I think it may not be called repetition. There are two words. One is called Punarukti, which is called repetition. When you have nothing new to say, then you say the same thing in the same words or in different words. So there is abhyasa. Abhyasa means also repeating, but that is for emphasizing, showing the importance of something and imbibing what has been said earlier. Therefore, even those who listened to this text earlier, a review of the text would be certainly a good reminder. For others who are coming for the first time, it would be a good introduction to this text. The author of this short work is called Upadesa Saaram. Saaram means essence, Upadesa means teaching. This is the essence of the teaching. Teaching of what? Teaching of Vedas, of all the scriptures. So, this is really a greatness of the masters who can expand something to something, infinite. At the same time, who can express the same thing very briefly. So Ramana Maharshi, the author, it's called Maharshi means a great sage. He was called a sage of Arunachalam. Arunachalam is a place where he lived most of his life. Last 54 years of his life. He went there at the age of 16 and never left that place, never left that mountain. At the request of one of his disciples, who requested him to please give an essence of the teaching of Vedanta, Ramana Maharshi wrote this 30 verses, 30 couplets in fact, in which he expressed the Saaram or Sara. Both the words, this word Sara is both in masculine as well as in neuter gender. Upadesa Saaram or Upadesa Saaram. The essence of the entire teaching of Vedanta is expressed here. In fact, entire teaching of Veda we should say. Because Vedas have broadly two sections. The first section dealing with karma, the rituals or dharma, the righteous way of life. And second section deals with jnanam or the knowledge. The idea is that if you live life based on dharma or righteousness, that would be called living intelligently. If you live life intelligently, in a mature manner, you make the right choices. Because we as human beings have free will and have freedom of making choices with reference to what to do, whether to do, what not to do, how to do. Human being has this unique gift of making a choice of whether to do something or not do something. Having decided to do something, how to do it. How not only in terms of the form, also in terms of spirit. With what attitude to do. How to do, what's the process of doing? With what attitude to do. The human being has a freedom of choice. And therefore, it is possible that this freedom may be abused, meaning that it is possible that this freedom may not be exercised in a mature way or in a wise way if their freedom is in some way influenced by the inner impulses of lust or greed or anger or jealousy, which unfortunately every human being has in some measure or the other. If the freedom of choice is controlled by any one of these inner impulses, then that will result into abuse of freedom. What is abuse of freedom? When what I do causes harm to somebody, or harm to me, or harm to both. Ideally, what I should do should be for the well-being of others, and by that way, for the well-being of myself. That would be the ideal way of doing things. And that is where really our freedom of choice should be exercised to perform actions in that way that whatever I do helps others and the process helps myself also. That is when I am in my right mind. When my mind is thinking mind, contemplative mind, free from impulses. In the words of Puja Swamiji, when my mind is objective mind. Objective means a mind that sees things as they are. Then that will be the right use of the free will. For which free will is given in the first place? The freedom of choice is given to us so that we can help ourselves and we can grow. Grow to what extent? As Vijayji said, grow to the extent of achieving the goal of life, which is called moksha or liberation, freedom. Unconditional freedom. Not just freedom, but unconditional freedom. The freedom that is not dependent upon time, that I am free at a given time and not at other times. Not dependent upon place, that I am free at this place and not at other place. Not dependent upon condition, that I am free in this condition, not in other condition. What my heart desires is freedom, which is not limited by any of these factors. I will be free at all times, at all places, and all conditions. I want unconditional freedom. And freedom alone means happiness. Therefore, what I am seeking is unconditional freedom, unconditional happiness. This is what I am seeking. But every human being is seeking. Meaning that each one of us is born with this natural desire. Not that we have decided to desire like that. We are born with that desire. And fulfillment of desire would be called the real success in life. Success is usually defined as fulfillment of a desire. I feel successful when my desire is fulfilled. Usually success that we achieve is only a fleeting success because looks like my desire was fulfilled, all right. But no sooner one desire is fulfilled, it is our experience that that desire is replaced by another desire. And therefore, in spite of fulfilling countless desires in our life, the flow of desire does not come to a cessation, it continues. Meaning a given desire is fulfilled, but the desirer seems to persist. And what we really want to become free is from freedom from desire. Again, in the words of Puja Swamiji, what is my desire? To become free from desire. This is my desire. I don't know how to do that. And then I keep on fulfilling desires. The desire behind all desires is to attain that unconditional freedom, unconditional happiness, which is called moksha. Moksha is purely something subjective. It is an objective, meaning that it cannot be described in terms of any kind of an external achievement or any goals. It has nothing to do with what is outside myself. It is all to do with what I am. By subjective, I do not mean some kind of mystical thing. What subjective I mean is something pertaining to me. And therefore, unfortunately, the world always associates success with something out there, with what I have, with what I have achieved. That is generally called success, and that's the kind of success I think is the real success I am seeking to achieve. But the success is to fulfill the desire behind all the desires, which is freedom from desires, which is attaining moksha or unconditional freedom. And this is the teaching of Vedanta. Again, as Vijay said that, even this moksha or unconditional freedom is not something to be achieved. Vedanta teaches that that is what you already are. You are the unconditional freedom that you are seeking to be. You are the unconditional happiness that you are seeking to be. Don't tell me I'm under happiness. I know who I am. Looks like the perception about myself that the Upanishads have seems to be quite opposite to the perception that I have about myself. I have a perception about myself as to who I am. And generally speaking, my perception of myself is that I am a limited being. That I am a wanting, lacking being of so many wants and lacks and desires. So my perception is I am a lacking, wanting being, an incomplete being, the one who doesn't have freedom, doesn't enjoy any freedom at all. And every condition I seem to be controlled by factors other than myself. It is the laws of nature that control me. My body within some impulses control me. The world controls me. My boss controls me. The spouse controls me. Anybody, I find I'm always controlled. That is my perception of myself. In spite of that, Vedanta Upanishad says, Tattvamasi, that thou art, you are that unconditional freedom. How can it be? So then, that is where the teaching comes. Who are you in reality? I have a perception of myself, but then that perception is not true to my real nature. What is my real nature? That I am a limited, lacking being. I am a wanting being. I am a helpless being. That is the perception I have of myself. Is it the reality about myself? Is it my experience? Or have I simply taken it for granted? Have I seen myself? And yes, I see myself as limited being. Vedanta says that it is not the experience of yourself. It is really a delusion about yourself. Your opinion about yourself does not arise from the true experience of yourself, but the false perception of yourself, which can be called Brahma or Moha, which often is translated as delusion, if you like. Aviveka, non-discrimination, or superimposition. So we have been always saying that Vedanta is the only tradition of teaching that questions the very conclusion I have about myself. Rest of all the traditions take for granted that what I take myself to be is what I am, and then they show us the way. That is, you are limited and you are bound, you will become free. And this is the way you become free. Not here, when you are in this body, not in this world. You must go to paradise, some place when you will experience that freedom. Vedanta says, no. As you are, now, here and now, that you are free. Meaning that you have to see yourself as a free person. Right now, you are seeing yourself as a bound person. You have to see yourself as a free person. How can I experience myself? How can I see myself? You don't have to see yourself as you see this clock. Even right now also you are seeing yourself. This is a question people have. So it is a transcendental self. How can I see? Do not get nervous about it. Do not get intimidated by these words. Because even now also I am seeing myself. If I did not see myself, if I did not experience myself, how can I say that I am a limited being? How can I say that? So I do have experience of myself, right? How can I say I'm a limited being, I'm lacking one thing, I'm so and so? How can I say that? So Vedanta says you don't have to create an experience of yourself. You must understand your experience. You already have an experience of the self, you have to understand the experience. That is where knowledge comes. What is knowledge? Knowledge is understanding of what is. Knowledge cannot be about something that is not. Our organs of perception only see what is. Our mind can see what is. So knowledge is always of what is. Knowledge of myself also means as I am. Meaning that we have to simply see ourselves as we are. Right now also we are seeing ourselves. Unfortunately, not as we are, but we are seeing ourselves. Just as the Vedanta teacher would say, that where there is a piece of rope, sometimes you see a snake there. So you are seeing all right, experiencing all right, and experiencing rope only, understand. You don't have to create a rope, only you are superimposing something. You have misconception or misperception, wrong perception of that object. So all you need is right perception. Correct? You understand from rope snake example. So also self is ever free. And I see it as bound. When can I see a snake? When I experience a rope. Otherwise I cannot see a snake, is that right? You know this rope snake example, right? I mean, in the garden there is a piece of rope and walking by. Sometimes in the evening there is not enough light and you have a wrong perception. You see the object is a snake. You could not have even had that misapprehension or wrong perception if you did not experience that object. Is it not so? Had there been pitch darkness, you could not have seen the rope. There is no projection of snake. Had it been broad daylight, you see the rope as a rope again, there would not be again a misperception, wrong perception of snake. Correct? It is if you experience that object, all right. But because of some defect somewhere, defect in terms of inadequate light, defect in terms of maybe something going on in your own mind at that time, defect in terms of maybe your eyes, It is some defect that deprives you of seeing things as it is. All we need to do is to remove that defect. You follow? So self we are already seeing, but the inadequate light. Had there been broad daylight, like a wise person has, you see the self as it is. No light at all, as in deep sleep, we don't see anything. But inadequate light. As when we are awake, when we are conscious, then instead of rope, just as we see snake, instead of what is limitless, we see the self is limited. So just as we recognize that the snake is not the reality about that object, rope, that's the reality by showing the torchlight, so also limitedness is not the reality about myself. Limitlessness is the reality about myself. So then we need to remove those defects. There are some defects in our own mind, which also we need to remove. Meaning that when there are these impulses, such as anger, such as greed, such as jealousy, when there are these, what are called demoniac tendencies are there, or negative tendencies are there, then our perception is distorted. Therefore, we must first of all straighten our mind with which we perceive everything. We perceive ourselves also through our mind. And therefore, it is necessary to make the mind, correct the mind, remove the defects from there, so that mind becomes an instrument with which I see things as they are, I see myself as I am. So we need two things. We need a mind which experiences itself as it is, and then we need a teaching to help us recognize what we are experiencing. The knowledge is of what is being experienced. There can be knowledge of something, which you are not seeing right now. That would be only indirect knowledge. But knowledge will be of something that where the self should become an object of an experience, then the teaching will enable us to recognize what it is. Thus there are two processes, or two steps. One step is to remove those defects or those angularities from our mind, so that the mind becomes like a mirror, a straightforward, flat mirror, free from any dust, which can reflect things as they are. Or mind becomes like a pool of water, which is free from all dirt, of which the surface is calm, when that water becomes a transparent body, which clearly reveals what is at the bottom. So mind should become the transparent body, which reveals the nature of the self. Then Vedanta says what it is. So thus, we say that the Vedas have therefore two sections. First section involving the life of activity, our day-to-day life. How to live the life intelligently. So living the way of life, intelligent, is called dharma. Dharma is the intelligent way of living life. That's what Vedas teaches. As a result of that, we have a mind which becomes now a reflecting medium, a transparent medium. Then the Upanishads or the section of knowledge teaches us what the nature of this self is. So this is the essence of the entire teaching. And of course, our mind should be, as Vedanta teaches, should have the Antakarana Shuddhi as well as Antakarana. The mind should have purity as well as what? Naischalyam, steadiness, focus, single point in this, concentration. We require mind that enjoys purity, meaning that enjoys freedom from those impulses, because impulses are impurity. Anger is impurity, jealousy is impurity, greed is impurity. So first of all, driving them out of our mind. That's the process of Antakarana Shuddhi or purification of mind. Then also we require steadiness of the mind. So Chitta Naischalyam, the steadiness of the mind. And for that, karma is in two stages. One is action performed at physical level, is an offering to Lord in the spirit of yoga. And second is same action performed at the mental level as mental worship called Upasana, which gives us or meditation, which gives us the steadiness or single pointedness of the mind. Antakarana Shuddhi, Antakarana Naischalyam, meaning purification of mind and concentration of mind. The ability of the mind to focus, to concentrate without any distraction. The capacity of the mind not to get distracted and be able to concentrate, focus upon what it is that it is inquiring into, it is contemplating upon. So that first section of Veda, which deals with action, can be further divided as karma and upasana. Karma means what? The rituals or the duties. Upasana means meditation, mental worship of Lord. What is karma yoga? Worshipping Lord through our action. What is meditation? Worshipping Lord at the level of mind. Ishvara must always be there. There is no spiritual life as far as Vedanta is concerned. There is no spiritual life at the exclusion of God or Ishvara. Because He is the goal. Ultimately, what we call that unconditional freedom, ultimately that's the nature of Ishvara. It's called Brahman. Same. So therefore, first devotion to what you want to achieve, and then knowing what you want to achieve. Devotion and knowledge. So devotion in two stages. Worshiping Ishvara by the action that I perform, worshiping Ishvara at the level of mind, or meditation, mental worship. And third stage is knowledge of Ishvara. So that's how Vedanta proceeds. To help you in concentration of mind, it is also called the yoga. So the whole Yoga Shastra, the whole science of yoga, Ashtanga yoga of 8 stages. And that involves one of the important limbs of the 8 limbs. One of the important limbs is called pranayama, or controlling the breath, which helps us in controlling the mind. What we want to achieve is the control over the mastery over the mind. And Yoga Shastra, in a very intelligent manner, explains how mastering the breath helps you in mastering the mind. So all of these elements we see in this Upadesa Saaram. So when Ramana Maharshi gives us the Saaram or essence of the whole teaching, he gives all of this. He gives us Karma Yoga, Upasana or Bhakti Yoga, mastery of mind called Patanjali Yoga, and finally knowledge is Jnana Yoga. All this Ramana Maharshi covers only in 30 short couplets. These verses are just couplets, short couplets. One of the very small, short meter. That shows brevity. How he explains or expresses or communicates in a very brief manner, but very effective manner. Of that also, the maximum emphasis is given on knowledge in this text also. But you should cover other things also to make it complete, because the disciple asks for the essence of the scriptures. Therefore, Ramana Maharshi includes in this work Karma Yoga, Upasana, the yoga of mastering the mind, and finally the section on knowledge, which involves what we call inquiry or a deliberation upon the nature of the self with the help of the scriptures. This is the background of this Upadesa Saaram. Now, I presume that all of you may know who Ramana Maharshi was. He's called the sage of Arunachalam. In south of India, there is a great mountain called Arunachalam. It's called the Kailas of the south, Mount Kailas, because that is also the seat of Lord Shiva. There is a great temple of Lord Arunachalam, or Lord Shiva. And that is where Ramana Maharshi also spent the whole of his life in different places and finally settled down, and there was an ashram there. So, let us now take these verses one by one, recite them, and we can briefly see their meaning. So that it becomes a revision for those who have been here in all the retreats and an introduction for those who have not attended those retreats. The very first verse, Ramana Maharshi shows the importance of accepting Ishvara in our life. They will accept that there is Ishvara, there is God. Who is Ishvara? The creator, sustainer, resolver of the universe. Vedanta teaches that Ishvara, God, is both the maker as well as the material. Like in making a pot, the pot maker is the maker, and the clay is the material. The usual creation, the maker and material are different. However, in case of the universe, the maker and the material is not different from the maker. So Ishvara is both the maker as well as the material. As maker, he is omniscient, omnipotent. He is the ordainer. As material, he is all pervasive, the self of all. Material is always a self. Like clay is the material from which pots are made, clay is the self of all the pots. Clay pervades all the pots. Clay is the self of all the pots, right? Then of course the pot maker does not come along with the pot. But here since Ishvara is material also, so he comes along with everything. Ordinarily when you buy a pot, thank God you don't have to bring that pot maker to your home. You buy a shirt, the tailor is not required. Buy a table, the carpenter need not come. You don't have to accommodate him. But here when you pick up something, you also accommodate Ishvara. He comes along with it. Because nothing can exist without Ishvara. So, first of all, the spiritual life begins with accepting the fact that he is Ishvara, who is the creator, sustainer, resolver, ordainer. He is the one who is the witness of all the actions performed by everybody. And he is the one who is the dispenser of the results of all the actions. That is Ishvara's concept. And there are even the followers of Vedas. In the Vedic times, there were 6 schools of thoughts, and there were philosophers or thinkers who did not see the need of accepting Ishvara. So, addressing them, Ramana Maharshi establishes the existence of Ishvara. So, let us read the first verse. I'll recite one line, please repeat after me. Karturajñaya prapyate phalam. Karma kim param karma tajjadam. If anybody does not have this booklet, you please get them. See the translation, the result of an action, phalam. Phalam is fruit, and Phalam also means, in this case, karma phalam means the result of an action. Prapyate is obtained. How? Kartuhu agnya. By agnya, by the command of kartuhu, of the creator, of the Lord. So Ramana Maharshi says that the result of an action comes to us as the result of the command of the Lord or the laws of the Lord. Establishing that He is karma phaladata, He is the dispenser of the results of the action. And how can He decide what should be the result of the action? Only when He knows what action has been performed, right? So He is also karma adhyakshya, witness to all the actions. He is omniscient, all-knowing, and therefore knows all the variables that went into making of an action, and therefore knows what should be the appropriate outcome of an action. Nobody else can know. We can never know. When you perform any action, what will be the exact outcome? It requires a knowledge of all the various factors that contributed to the action, right? And it is amazing to know that the whole universe participates in every action. Even right now, I am performing the action of speaking. This action could not be performed and you are listening. This could not be done unless the whole universe participated. Some of the factors are very clear to us. You can see me provided there is sunlight, so that's clear. I can speak provided my organ of speech is functioning. You can hear only if your organ of hearing is functioning. You can hear if these words fall on your will, these words are carried from here to your organ of hearing. You can hear if your mind is behind your organ of hearing. Some of these things are known to us. But we don't know what makes it possible to assemble here. How many factors are required to create this assembly, That each one of you somehow got a desire that we want to attend this retreat. And many others also have a desire that Swamiji, my nephew is coming, and my niece is coming, and my this is coming, and that wedding is there, and this is there. So many people, Swami, I want you to come to the retreat, okay? So desire is there, but then there are factors. That you came here basically, everybody came in time. The traffic, all the motor cars on the road were blessing you, that they did not come in your way. If you think about it, an assembly, any assembly, not saying, it requires the participation and the cooperation of countless factors. Cooperation and participation and cooperation of the whole universe. The presiding deities, devatas, the organ of speech, organ of hearing, they must be blessing us. And there must be air, and there must be water, there must be fire, all this. Meaning that so many factors, countless factors go into making an action. There is no way that we can ever take into account the effect of all those factors. Who can determine truly? Only one who knows everything. That requires omniscient being to really determine what it is that is required for performance of action and what should be the appropriate outcome of the action. There is Ishvara, who is the creator, who is omniscient. Not only he should be omniscient, he must be omnipotent, meaning that he must have power also to grant the result. So, let's call Ishvara. So, Ramana Maharshi says, hey fellows, accept that all the results come as determined by the Ishvara through his laws. Karma kim param, karma tajjadam. Karma itself cannot give rise to its outcome because it is inert. You require a sentient, conscious being, an intelligent being to determine this. So this function of the universe itself reveals that there is an intelligent being, because everything in the universe is functioning in an intelligent manner. A plant grows in an intelligent manner, an insect acts in an intelligent manner, everything is intelligence. We marvel at the creation of human beings. What they have, Swami, driverless car. What a creation. But you look at even one insect and see how it functions. What an intelligence is involved there. What a wonder it is. Everything is just marvelous. So, it reveals that there is an intelligent entity, an omniscient entity. Our Swami would say that what you see is nothing but manifestation of omniscience. Everywhere is knowledge or omniscience that manifests this universe. That's the first rule, that there is Ishvara. He determines. And he gives the results of the actions. Second, your choice to perform an action with a personal agenda or without a personal agenda. In Sanskrit, you got sakama karma and nishkama karma. Meaning what? A karma or an action performed for self-gratification or an action performed for any consideration of self-gratification. Simply as an offering. Here, take it. Where I have no agenda of my own, no expectation of my own. I do not need any reward. Two kinds of action. An action performed with an intention of getting personal reward of one kind or the other, or an action performed without the expectation of a reward. So what happens when you perform an action with the expectation of a reward? The second verse tells us. Kruti mahodadhau patana karanam phalam shashvatam gati nirodhakam. That this action performed with the agenda of self-gratification. We call a desire-prompted action, but behind desire there is always the desire for self-gratification. Every desire is for self-gratification. Either gratification of senses, gratification of emotion, gratification of intellect, or gratification of ego. It's all myself. I am seeking gratification at all these different levels, and I perform usually actions to achieve that gratification. So usually people perform even virtuous actions. We are not even talking about, we are talking about good actions. Meaning punya karma, virtue like action, even perform as a worship to Ishvara. Action performed as service to others. Whatever action it is, as long as behind that action there is this personal agenda of self-gratification, then Ramana Maharshi said that is a binding action. It is bondage because of which I performed the action in the first place. And my hope is that this action will result into my freedom. The desire behind all desires is the desire for freedom. endeavor, whatever I do, small or big, is always done with the desire for freedom. As I perceive freedom. When I perform an action for freedom, I have my own perception of what freedom is. Sometimes I think our amplifier tunes up with some frequency or wavelength. And then when you receive some radio or something or the other, something like that seems to be case, I don't know.
I think they do the meditation.
Oh, the meditation.
In the next room. And it might just have started. I think.
But how we are hooked to that?
So, well, they should turn the speaker off, I'm sure they will.
Nice music anyway. Should I really disturb this music with my talking?
Sorry, but this is a wonderful way to welcome you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So it's our music welcome.
Welcome music.
So Kumarji, or it's here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So may I indulge this moment and just say hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to our ashram here, and you definitely bring, Swamiji, so much a wonderful vibration and its integrity to the practice, and really appreciate everything, and all of you bringing your journey here to enhance your life and improve your life to make this a better world. It needs it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So my personal agenda in performing any action is really that unconditional freedom. But freedom as I perceive. And because of ignorance, this self-gratification is perceived as freedom or happiness. That when I have pleasure in the senses, or when I have emotional comfort and intellectual excitement, or ego gratification, that is what I think is happiness. That is what I think is freedom. And that is natural. That being my perception of happiness, I perform actions to achieve that happiness. So here we are told that look, in that process, in fact, you are not creating happiness for yourself, you are creating unhappiness for yourself. In the long term, this way of achieving happiness by what we call self-gratification is a short-term gain and long-term pain. Vishendriya sanyogat yatadagre mritopamam pariname vishamiva tat sukham brajasam sukham. Lord Krishna, that's called binding happiness, which feels very sweet in the beginning, but turns out to be very bitter at the end. And usually we go for what we call immediate gratification, not realizing that the immediate gratification results into a long-term pain. So we are told here, Kruti Mahodadau Patana Karanam. phalam ashashvatam. Whenever you perform an action with an agenda of a personal reward in terms of self-gratification, it will come. But ashashvatam, it is perishable, non-eternal. Shashvatam, eternal. Ashashvatam, non-eternal or perishable. Fleeting. You will get what you call a fleeting happiness in terms of gratification. Because regardless of what action you perform, the outcome of action is limited, isn't it? Because our action is limited in time and place, etc. So whatever you get as a result of action also will be limited. A limited thing, if it all gives you gratification, is only for a limited time and place. Ashashvatam. What it does is, unfortunately, sometimes it happens that a person is so hungry, you little food, it enhances hunger, sometimes they say. Or like fire, you pour butter into fire, it becomes more demanding. And so also what happens is, whenever we feed our mind with this limited sense gratification, the mind, instead of being satisfied, becomes more and more dissatisfied. It is like fire demanding more and more. Meaning our desires become more intense. Our sense of dissatisfaction becomes more intense. After experiencing that limited satisfaction that something gave me, there is a withdrawal syndrome. Ultimately, I feel what? More dissatisfied. As a result, ultimately. And therefore, I want more. Meaning that it keeps on producing desires of desiring more and more, actions more and more results, more desires, more actions. And if you do not do anything about it, this will be a process that will go on forever, perpetuate. Like ocean, which is shoreless. So also this whole chain of karma and karma phala, as when karma is performed with the desire for self-gratification, it generates another karma, which karma phala, another karma, and thus it creates that whole chain, unending chain, is compared to an ocean, shoreless. Patana karanam. And at every stage I am always dependent. Because when I perform a karma, I do not know what the outcome will be. Therefore, there is always an apprehension in my mind whether the outcome will be favorable or not. When the outcome is favorable in some cases, then also I realize that that favorable outcome also has not given me anything lasting. It has given me only something perishable or fleeting and left me more hungry. Thus, my sense of dissatisfaction about self keeps on growing. My dependence grows. That means my bondage is growing. So, phalam shashvatam patana karanam. It is this action, what was self-centered action. Action performed for self-gratification results into its chain, unending chain of action and reaction, and therefore an unending chain of dependence or bondage. What is bondage? Dependence, helplessness. So this is the way of perpetuating bondage and perpetuating sorrow. The ocean of sorrow. The sorrow is shoreless if one lives the life which is self-centered. Life dedicated to self-gratification. That person can never be happy. Has to be miserable. Regardless of what that person has. Because happiness and misery are all subjective things, not objective things. I can be in the midst of only worldly achievements and can be an unhappy person. Or I can be in the midst of nothing and I can be a happy person. Oh, that doesn't mean because nothing is happy. What I'm saying is that happiness and unhappiness has nothing to do with what is out there, what I have, nothing. They don't contribute. Nothing in the world contributes either to my happiness or unhappiness. It's I who creates happiness for me or unhappiness for me. This is a classic way of creating unhappiness for me. Performing actions with the agenda of self-gratification. Then what should you do? So third verse tells us, how, with what attitude should we be performing actions? So that action becomes a means of freedom rather than a means of bondage. Action can become a means of bondage when performed with given attitude. It can become a means of liberation if performed with another attitude. So third verse says, Ishwararpitam nechaya kritam chitta shodhakam mukti sadhakam na ichchaya kritam. When action is performed not with that self-centered desire, not for fulfilling one's agenda of the ego, then what is the motivation behind the action? Swamiji, when the motivation, then if it is not meant for your personal gain, then what's the motivation? Swamiji, there is no greed and no craving, then what will drive the action? So Vedanta teaches another motivation. The self-gratification need not be the only motivation in performing an action. Gratifying Ishvara. Not being a consumer, but being a contributor. There also can be a motivation. Ishvararpitam, an action performed for making Ishvara happy. Oh, where is Ishvara, Swami? What is Ishvara, we told you? He is the maker as well as material. Therefore, he pervades everything. He is the self of all. He is all. Just as the clay from which pots and pans are made, the pots and pans are nothing but clay. So also whatever is the Ishvara. So please them as though they are Ishvara. Not please them because he is a spouse or something. Please them because he is Ishvara. Pleasing spouse is one thing. Pleasing Ishvara in the form of spouse is another thing. Understand? So pleasing Ishvara. That does not exclude your spouse. Does not exclude anything. As long as you look upon that as manifestation of Ishvara. Not as an object of pleasure. Not as an object of indulgence. As an object of worship. So here Vedanta teaches that the whole world being manifested of Ishvara is object of worship. So perform your actions in the spirit of worshipping Ishvara. Without that self-centered desire, then that action becomes not a binding action, becomes freeing action. What is the binding action? Which gives rise to more and more desires, and there are more and more likes and dislikes. What is freeing action? When it gets rid of the desires, gets rid of the likes and dislikes, gets rid of the impurity of the mind, and becomes a means of purification of mind. Chitta Shodhakam, action which is performed in the spirit of worshipping Ishvara, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati mana. Lord Krishna says, worshipping Ishvara with one's own karma, with one's own duty, one attains perfection. Mukti sadhakam. And that action there becomes the sadhakam, the means of mukti, liberation. Same action performed with an attitude that is for self-gratification becomes a means of binding oneself. Same action, when performed with the attitude of worshipping Ishvara, becomes a freeing action. Just change your attitude. So we use our free will for what? For changing our attitude. That freedom we always have. We may not have any other freedom. We may not have freedom to decide what to do, and that also world will decide. You do Swamiji. You can't do anything. All right. You can control me in every way. But at least I have freedom in one place. What is the freedom? With what attitude should I do? That's what I decide. What I should do, that you may decide. How I should do it this way. That also you may decide. But the attitude which is done is up to me. That's enough. That much freedom is enough because it is change of attitude which makes the result freeing instead of binding. What's the attitude? Change of attitude. Instead of ego gratification, it is gratification of Ishvara. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om